Israel, v'imiru, amen. Please be seated. Again, I say good Shabbos to everyone. Welcome, family and friends, as we welcome in Shabbat again. And again, I extend a warm welcome to all of Ray's extended family and friends who have joined us on this Shabbat. I have said many times before that I believe we must learn how to talk about religion and politics with each other. We have to learn to listen to one another and find ways to demonstrate our respect for each other. I believe we are doing ourselves and our democratic institutions, our country, a terrible disservice when we don't engage in important philosophical discussions. So I'm turning to you tonight. It's an experiment. I'm counting on you're going to be good congregants and visitors tonight. This has been a period of time over the last 10 days where our emotions have swung from one extreme to the next. We all watched the devastation in California. Many of us watched my Detroit Lions go down to defeat Saturday night. We watched Michigan's greatest rival, Ohio State, win the national championship. Tragedy. Absolute tragedy. Oh my gosh. We watched the first 3 hostages finally released in that throng of men dressed in green and black that I don't think any of us will ever forget that scene. And we watched as our 47th president was inaugurated on Monday morning. And associated with that day were a series of executive orders that reminded us how much polarity there is in our country. And I found myself asking again and again, how have we gotten to this point? And I spent some time focusing on those executive orders. And I kept asking myself again and again, they clearly speak for many people in this country. Where do I stand on these issues? I have a feeling that every single person here would agree with the act of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. That as we look out at our government trying to address so many challenges before us, that's been in place for nearly 250 years, there is so much room for improvement. And it takes a man of the courage of President Trump to make some of the difficult calls that will hopefully enable us to be a better country. And at the same time, as we looked at those executive orders, I found myself feeling like a ping pong ball between one extreme and the next extreme, between one administration and the next, and wondering how are we going to come together? How are we going to find a way to acknowledge that our Republican and Democratic parties are built on principles that reflect so much good in us as a country. So many people on both sides of the aisle represent so much that we share. And yet, time and again, all we can focus on is our differences. And the expression of those executive orders brought that to the forefront for me, as I had to acknowledge, for example, the executive order regarding the discontinuation of gender identity. This country has come so far in acknowledging that we're not just a binary society. There are so many needy people amongst us. We have caused so much pain across our world, let alone our own country, because we've been unwilling and unable to accept people as they are. And yet, we haven't been able to find a way that acknowledges those differences and brings people together. We can only think of X or Y. We can only think of black or white. And our world is a world filled with nuance. And I hope that as we move forward, we can stand up and proudly defend that sense of nuance and acknowledge that each and every one of us must demonstrate respect for one another. We need leaders who will speak in a way that will bring us together. We need leaders who will understand that there is a need for nuance at the same time of standing for principle. It's not an easy task, but we can't ever give up on the goal of identifying those critical, wonderful principles for which our country stands and striving to do all we can to bring us together to promote the very, very best in each of us, and let alone in our country. There is a famous quotation associated with President Calvin Coolidge. It reads, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men," I would add, or women, "with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." Moshe Rabbeinu never gave up. We are reading now the first few Sedras. This week we read the second Torah portion in the book of Exodus. And he faced one challenge after another. 9 times he stood before Pharaoh and was denied his request. Throughout his lifetime, he struggled with us, the Jewish people, the Israelites. They were always ready to rebel. He never gave up. He had his eye on his goal, his mission, and he demonstrated resilience. He demonstrated staying power. And I pray that all of us will do what we can to help to move this country forward, to stand up for the principles that we cherish, and to strive to bring us together one step at a time so that we can truly stand up as a United States of America, supporting values that have guided this country so well and guided this world in so many difficult instances for a considerable period of time that we hope will endure much longer. Together we say, Shabbat Shalom.